Hello, viewers. Hope everybody's having a good day. I am your host, Jeremy Reeder, and today we have a special guest. Very special. Been wanting to get this guy in the commentary for quite a while. The one, the only Neil Sutherland.
Happy to be here, Jeremy. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, it's we've been waiting on you to jump in here. I'm really glad we got you in the booth. So
Yeah, and I wanted to make sure to give people opportunity to get to know me, so I wanted to share a fun fact about myself. I have never run a marathon.
never run a marathon.
Yeah, just seemed like way too hard and not very fun, so I just decided I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, they're a little difficult. I am. I've run one marathon in the military, and they told us we could have a week off when we got done with it. Little did we know that we actually needed the week off after the marathon to recover.
Yeah, to figure out how to use a wheelchair so you could start to wheel yourself around for a week.
Actually, they brought us crutches, and we were like, "Oh man, y'all are just joking around," because we would run like 10 miles a day, train for it. But anyway, they brought us crutches, and we were like, "Oh, you don't know what y'all was talking about." And we had a 4-hour bus trip back to base. When we got back to base after 4 hours of sitting on our butts after running that far, legs no longer worked. They just didn't work. So wonderful.
And I can definitely relate. I'm definitely more of a walking type, and when I get out of the car after a long hike, after a few hours of driving, the legs are just not happy to be there.
Yeah, Jello. Well, this is the Sunday GT Challenge Season 8. We haven't had this series in a while. Um,
Yeah, I
Decided
actually
to bring it
ran
on
the
back.
series the last time it was up. It was my first series I ever admin for.
Yeah, that's right. So uh, I am now the admin, which has been wonderful so far. And it looks like we just got done with qualifying. Our top 10: Max Simmons, Dan French, Jeremy Reeder, Jack Pollock, Spencer Taft, Nicholas, Tobias Theroff, Xavier Castano, Sean Kinney, and I believe that's Zach Buns, but we'll see in a little bit.
Yeah, a lot of familiar faces there at the front. Max Simons, Dan French, Jeremy Reeder, of course. A few new names as well. That's always good to see.
Yeah, we posted this thing on Reddit. So far, we've got a lot of new faces here. A lot of old faces though. Xavier Castano, Sean Kinney, Wesley Stokes, Sabolsky, Uh, Dominic
Tom
Turcotte, hadn't seen him in a while.
Tom Waj as well.
Yeah, Tom Wash.
Lyndon
So
Bingaman is a newcomer from just a season or two ago, joined for Monday, and is now, looks like, here on Sunday as well.
yeah, that's right. Tobias Theroff, race room man, decided to make the changeover with Henrik Andreasen as well. So we're hoping that this season's going to be really, really good.
Yeah, you mentioned Reddit. We're always recruiting new drivers. We are ESR, Eat Sleep Race, a Canada and US based league, but also serve drivers from all over, including South America, Europe, and other locations too.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's
we we run ACC leagues on Sundays and Mondays, and also, as you mentioned, race room leagues on Wednesdays and Saturdays, I believe. So lots of opportunities to join in.
yeah, that's right. All classes, all level of experience, welcome. ESR-race.org.
And as you mentioned, tonight is round one of Sunday GT Challenge Season 8. Is that right?
That's right. So this will be a sprint, 60 minutes. 60-minute race, nothing too big. There will be one required pit stop, 10-minute pit window, spread across the middle, tires and fuel required. So not much of a strategy race, but here at Zolder, 3 chicanes, man, we're going to see some action.
Those are literally the notes that I wrote down as chicanes, chicanes, chicanes. There are three of them. They are each tricky in their own special ways. You mentioned the race format as well. I believe this series is doing three different formats: the sprint, the double sprint, which is two shorter races, and then the endurance race, which I think was 90 minutes. Is that
Yeah,
right?
we're doing a 90-minute endurance race, so come on if you think you've got what it takes.
Wow. Are you
The
offering more points than the normal sprint race for that since it's such a commitment?
Nope, show up, you're going to get the same points as you normally would.
Brutal.
Uh,
Is it the finale of the season?
it is not the finale of the season. The finale of the season is actually going to be our double sprint, which is at Hungaro ring.
Very fun.
Yeah, so I'm really excited for that one. I've been wanting to do a double for quite a while.
Yeah, and Hungaroring is a classic track, one of my personal favorites. It should be interesting to be able to grid up twice there and maybe get a redo if everything doesn't go quite as the way you wanted in race number one.
Yeah, that's right. It'll be great. So I
We're
love
rolling off
Hungaro.
the grid here for a full formation lap.
Yep,
Gives
full
the
formation
drivers a
lap.
little bit of time to warm the tires and brakes. I'm sure weaving is probably allowed, so we'll expect to see some of that during this formation lap.
Yeah, that's right. When they double file, they won't be allowed to weave or sudden changes, but we'll see. We'll see if everybody follows that. Well, like I said, a lot of new faces here, so driver's briefing wasn't that good.
Don't be so hard on the admin. I think they're new to adminning, so they'll find their swing in no time, I believe.
Oh my goodness, we got an Audi off in the background. Was that Reader just all over the place? Where
All
was
over
he?
the place. Really
Where was
getting
he
the
going?
most out of the tires during this warm-up phase, it looks like.
Oh my goodness. Go ahead and just get a little dirt on that stuff.
Now, a little history about this circuit. It was built in 1963, and it's hosted Formula One's Belgian Grand Prix 10 times in the 1970s and 1980s. In the background, you saw the windmill. It's right on the banks of the Albert Canal. It's an 81-mile-long canal connecting two large river systems. That was some of the things I noticed as I was scrolling around the map preparing for today's race.
Wow. I didn't know it. It looks like we're gonna go double file here. When they go double file here, it's interesting, especially whenever you get a lot of cars. You get 30 or 40. People are so strung out. If you could even see it on the mini map, people are having to catch up.
Oh yeah, look at that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they seem to really space out during single file as people are slowing up and speeding down, trying to really work the tires and brakes. We're approaching the third of the three chicanes here on the formation lap, and I imagine things might get a little bit bunched up for the back of the field. As you mentioned, the start line comes up pretty quick, I believe, so we may see the green light for a few people that are still in the chicane.
Which may lead to some touchy.
Touchy here and there. We see Jack Polyak from Sim Racing Alliance, one of our partner leagues here as we approach the green lights.
Oh, is he from SRA?
Indeed, indeed.
Oh, that's awesome. I didn't even realize that. And we are gonna go green. Here we are, off the start. We got cars everywhere, it looks like.
And this is a tight first sector. It'll be interesting to see
Ooh,
how long the cars behind can stay double file.
looked like third place there was pretty squirmy coming off the curb at the start.
It looks like the top 6 or 7 have filed into single file nicely. I see one car off on the track map, perhaps on the outside of turn one, recovering from an incident.
And it looks like that is going to be maybe Sobolski. He's dropping far. Oh,
Contact in the first chicane, elbows
Xavier
out
Cas-
early.
Xavier Castano and Sean Kinney, I do believe.
And that first chicane is not an easy one to go side by side. It is both tight and those curbs are punishing. So you are not given a lot of space to go 2 by 2 there.
No, it's not. And these two cars, the Audi and the Porsche rear-wheel drive, they get very upset when you hit those curves a little too much. You know, Neil, I'm hoping somebody gives this man a run for his money this season in GT3s.
Max
I mean,
Simons is a dominant force, that is for sure. We saw a few opportunities, or weaknesses, should I say, in the GT4 Season 4 series that we just finished up, but I have a feeling that was because Max was not preparing that much,
Yeah.
they would gain many seconds per lap throughout the race, just knowing that they were kind of finding their speed throughout the race instead of preparing as it takes us hours and hours to prep to even hope of beating Max. But yeah, GT3 has pretty much been unstoppable here at ESR.
Well, Dan French, Dan the man, we need you to go ahead and just go ahead and take him out right now. You're close enough. Just do it.
There you have it, Jeremy Reeder creating a little extra work for the stewards, I guess, trying to encourage some incidents here, NASCAR
That's
style racing.
that's Josh's thing. So put all the work on him.
Well, maybe if not on track, then in pit strategy. But as you mentioned, there is a 10-minute pit window, meaning everybody will be pitting around the same time, and tires and fuel are required. So I would imagine that most drivers are on the same strategy here. So in terms of passing in the pits, it's really going to come down to who can execute that pit stop the best.
Yeah, and the pit entry here is quite interesting. The braking marker is not until you get to those three little soldier curbs I call them on the right hand side, whereas the braking for the apex of that final chicane is all the way back at the white and red curbs. So we may get to see some whoopsie moments, especially at pit entry.
That's right. The driver ahead actually has a really huge advantage because those they can force the driver behind to pit before them, in which case that driver behind loses a lot, having to brake at the normal braking point instead of that deeper pit entry braking point.
Yep, absolutely.
I wouldn't be surprised. Max Simons is known for going really, really deep into the race before pitting anyways. It would behoove Max to stay out until the very possible minute, and at least then there's no advantage, and Dan French won't lose so much time in that case.
Right. Zach looking on the inside of Sean Kinney. And the pit exit comes out onto the apex of turn two, so we could see some issues there. Oh, Zach Buns is
Good avoidance by the drivers behind.
he just grabs too much of that sausage curb.
Yeah, in that second chicane, curbs don't stick up quite as much as in chicane number one, but they do have kind of those soldier type curbs that invite the drivers, I think, to take a little bit more. And as you can see, it doesn't take much to upset that rear engine car of the McLaren.
Great shot of Wesley Stokes and Martell going side by side.
Looks like they're going to stack up a little bit with the BMW showing the nose as well.
Boys, 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 you can't go fast if you're going side by side.
Track position is at a premium here, though, as we mentioned, really not much of an opportunity to gain or lose during the pit cycle. So every pass really counts here. No one's wanting to move backwards this early. Nichols right around the inside and moves back to the racing line. What a move.
Yeah, what a move. That was a good move.
Jeremy, I thought it might be fun if we took turns throughout the race, not all at once, of course, trying to pronounce some of the names of the turns here.
Oh gosh. I'm gonna need a map. Here, hang on. I'm gonna have to open up a map because I'm not sure that I know them. For each one we get wrong, the audience has to take a shot. Is that how this works?
Yes, that is actually the only rule of ESR. We have one rule about watching ESR races, and that's the one.
So,
Why don't I start us off with turn one? I'm going to go with Eerste,
here's the
turn one here at Zolder.
wow. I'm looking at turn two here, and I'm not
Yeah,
I'm not feeling.
why don't you stew on that one for a while? We'll watch a
Yeah,
few more laps and then revisit it. Give the audience a chance to recover from my first horrible pronunciation.
we're stuck on board with Jack Pollock here in that BMW. I'm feeling like they nerfed the BMWs a little bit. I know we got one at the front of the pack, but these cars were strong, strong a few seasons ago.
Yep, and I believe Simons is actually capable of driving at the front of the pack in a lawnmower, so
Right.
BMW definitely no longer OP as it was when it was first released.
And Dan French rocking the Audi. Dan
Y-
does not usually rock the Audi. He's always in either that Merc or that Bentley.
Yep, and the Audi, on the other hand, compared to the BMW, did receive a few buffs over the last 6 months or so, and I think it's kind of just hanging on to them. Hasn't really received any updates lately, but is clearly competitive here, is right on the back of Max Simons coming down the start-finish straight.
These three still going at it. Antonio Martel, Wesley Stokes, and Oscar Tan. Looks like we got a bunch of close races just looking at the timing chart. First and second are right on top of each other, then it's third, fourth, and fifth.
I'm seeing a lot of gaps, less than a second here. That means we
Yeah.
have a lot of close racing happening on track. Man, when the speeds come down that much for the chicane, the cars really close up on each other. It really shows you how difficult it can be to race within a half a second or less of the car in front of you. BMW looking pretty solid over those
Yeah,
curbs
it
and the
did.
chicanes. That's going to be a really nice benefit, not having to worry about getting yeeted off into space like a car like the Porsche or perhaps the McLaren here.
A relatively clean start to this race. Zolder usually produces some very hectic first two laps, but looks like everybody's trying to be good in this first race of the season.
Yeah, I think we saw a little bit of side-by-side rubbing, but not a lot of major shunts from what we could tell. Everybody may be content to settle in here as they find who's a little faster, maybe who's a little bit slower than them. They file in, try to just perhaps conserve those tires over the first 30-minute stint. I know that the tire change is required halfway through, but 30 minutes is plenty of time to notice the extra wear on the front tires if you're not careful.
Mm-hmm. You can grain them pretty easily here, especially through this section.
Now, if we stay on board with Stokes here, you can just see the size of the curbs here at both of the apexes. Really not ones that you want to be hitting on the way through.
But if you do, just make sure you prepare for re-entry.
Indeed, put those heat shields up.
That's right, you're going to need them.
What do you think, Jeremy? You ready for the pronunciation of turn number 2?
Let's go for it. So turn to Zolder. I don't even know if I could say this all at one time. Darren, watch.
You're a natural. I did not know that you spoke Dutch.
It's Darren, watch. Whew, my goodness, it's like 12 syllables. Did you give me all the big ones? You did. You
No,
gave me
no, no.
all
I'll
of the
take number
big
3. We'll
ones.
just keep alternating. It'll be fine. You get turn 6, which is a shorter name than most, but we won't spoil that for the audience just yet. Still looking at Stokes here coming into Sterrenwachtbach.
Back up front, Dan French is putting the pressure on Max Simmons here.
Can't really follow someone much closer than that.
Is he going to send it on the inside?
He's
Ooh.
looking, but kept it with 0 overlap just in case Max decided to close the door, which they did.
Oh, he might send it here, coming down into the hairpin.
And as you say, hairpin, when you look at the track map, it is not much of a 180-degree turn. I mean, you do have to slow down compared to more some of the other turns here, but it is not a first gear turn by any means. It's difficult to get the overlap before the turn-in point there.
Yeah, definitely.
These two definitely spacing out the gap between third and fourth, but again, third and fourth, just a half a second between them. We've got some groups forming here.
Now, what happened to Reader? He was up there in third and has just fallen back to fifth.
The Reader seems to have slipped back to the head of a field of two other drivers, so he's now a miniature cork in a tiny bottle.
I wonder if he decided to go on ahead and prepare for re-entry at the first chicane.
Oh, you're thinking perhaps he had a little misstep in the chicane.
Yeah, that's what I'm feeling like.
It's not difficult to do, and with the Audi, as you mentioned, that low to the ground rear engine platform, it is not quite so forgiving as something like the BMW over those curbs.
We got a yellow flag out. We had a yellow flag out.
Yeah, slow moving car ahead after the first chicane. Clearly an incident there as they approach right now in turn 6.
Let's see when we get to the timing line here in just a minute after this second chicane. Oh, we got Spencer Taft falling through. I wonder if that was a Spencer move. It
It
is.
sure looks like it. And what do you know? It's a rear engine car, the Porsche there. Perhaps just taking a tiny too much curb.
Oscar.
Andreessen behind, a name not one that I recognize. Welcome.
Yep, Henrik Andreasen. He is actually with Tugas Racing. He does a lot of R3E stuff. Super, super quick.
Welcome. Happy to have you. Turcotte completing the pass on Taft, who is perhaps still mentally recovering from that shunt off at the chicane. It can be quite difficult. And with this short lap time, next turn is coming up right at you, so not a lot of time to dwell on that past mistake.
And interestingly enough, I think this is Spencer's first season in the Porsche, so I'm sure he's learning what that thing's all about. It's a handful.
Man, trial by fire. The race organizers going with Zolder for round 1, throwing a challenge right at the drivers, and Spencer Taft maybe wishing for maybe more forgiving track for round 1, but not going to have it for this season.
Well, we decided that, you know what, let's go ahead and get the hard rounds out the way. We got Mount Panorama
Oh boy.
in 2 weeks, so I hope these boys have eaten their Wheaties when they show up for that one, because we all know how much that can. Oh my goodness.
Taft running wide out of the second chicane, giving an opportunity to Oscar Tan.
Oh my goodness, there goes the Pirelli sign.
Taft able to hold it around the outside for now, but that opens the door for Stokes. Andreessen, sorry.
And it looks like he'll hold it into the final chicane. Whew, Spencer got to shake it off.
Absolutely. Moving backwards now. Got to keep those eyes forward. And looking back at the leaders, 1/10 between French and Simon still. That battle is not cooling off anytime soon. We're 15 minutes in here, 10 minutes to go still until that pit window opens, so lots of on-track action still to come.
Oscar Tan, we affectionately call him the drive-through king. This man has more drive-through penalties than I think anyone in the ESR. Shout
That is
out.
an unfortunate nickname to have.
It looks like he's doing okay today, though. I haven't seen much track cutting, so. He's very
And
good at
coming into
making
this,
GIFs as well. He can make a GIF like in a heartbeat.
it is a unique skill to have. And looking at the leaderboard, Reader appears to be pulling away from the cars behind, maybe trying to scratch back some of that time to Polyak ahead, but still finding themselves about 3.5 seconds back.
Now, one that we haven't really talked about that is usually at the front of the pack, Sean Kinney, he's riding around in seventh. Not bad for, he's been off for about 6 months, so not bad to come back and be running seventh at this time, I would say.
Yeah, a lot can change in these racing conditions. These cars change often as the series organizers change the BOP and as the tires or perhaps the physics of the universe change a little bit. But yeah, Sean's definitely taking some time off and is really, I would say, having a really good performance here for taking that much time away from the car.
It is not going to be long, Neil, and Dan French is going to yeet Max Simmons out of the way.
We can see 4.5 tenths now, though, falling a little bit further behind than the 2 tenths. Seems silly to say, falling back from 2 to 4 tenths, but really we can see a few car lengths here, whereas they were bumper to bumper for a few laps there. A group of four, almost bumper to bumper here. This is exciting stuff.
Now,
Getting a look at that
interestingly
pit entry
enough,
there.
and just as we mentioned Sean Kinney's name, he has dropped back to 13th, so he had a big whoopsie.
That is an unfortunate part of the commentator's curse that is just a law of nature, it seems.
Oh, Hendrick on the grass there. That's going to hurt his run.
Livery, though, still looking fresh to death. I love the black and gold.
I do. I love that. That is nice looking. We got the Ferrari of Dominic Turcotte leading this pack. He's the only Ferrari in the group.
The only Ferrari in the field, actually, and if there's one thing I
Yeah,
know about the Ferrari from the current mechanical specifications of this series, it's that it is not a friendly car when it comes to hitting curbs in the wrong way. So that is a brave and solid drive there from Turcotte here in the Ferrari.
yeah, it is.
Leaders back to bumper. As we come over the start finish line, we see the update 0.1 second. Looking to the inside is French. They're side by side all the way into turn two here.
Oh,
What can French do? The next turn is also a right-hander. Can they hold it around the outside?
oh, and the next turn is a right-hander.
Does have the nose.
Oh, he's gonna squeeze him. Oh, Dan French
Max
is
does leave
off.
the space, known for being a very clean driver in our experience here at ESR, and it looks like perhaps French just asked a little too much of the car going around the outside at speed. Now that is tough. I'm sure that Dan French there spent 20 minutes wishing and hoping for that move, and now finds themselves over a second behind, perhaps even more after the timing and scoring will come up to speed here.
So who is our biggest movers today? I'm not exactly sure. We need to figure that out. I wonder, is it? I want to say it's a Castano. Possibly. You know, if the admin did their job, there might be some data.
It looks like we have Turcotte qualifying P16 is currently running in 10th. That's quite the move. Martel qualifying P15 in 8th, a net
Oh,
of
yeah.
7 positions there.
You could throw a blanket over these 2 packs of 3 here.
And we're approaching the opening of the pit window here, only about 3 minutes left. That's actually going to be interesting because we're coming up to the first chicane, meaning that the entire field will have access to the pits as soon as it opens, as opposed to opening midway through the field, which is always kind of an interesting strategy question.
Right. Oh, Hendry getting a little squirrely. I've always found that the car has a tendency to just really slide through the second chicane for whatever reason. You know, Neil, interestingly enough, the time is counting down, but the hour is not moving. Huh,
Interesting. We must have a broken clock, or perhaps the race organizers have made a deal with the devil.
right.
Now, what's so impressive about these cars following so closely is that, at least in my experience with this track, I feel as though the braking points approach you so quickly. And when you're following someone a tenth, 2/10, even a half a second, you've got to be on your marks and make sure that you're braking before your normal braking point.
And then on top of that, the lack of visibility, especially whenever you're going into these chicanes, if it, it's really a timing thing through these chicanes. So if you cannot see where your turn-in point's at, good luck. How about that pronunciation of that third turn there, Neil?
Let's give it a try. Kanalbocht.
All right. Kanalbocht, you say.
How
I
do you
feel
rate
like that
my
should be
performance?
inserted. It should be inserted into a mama joke, is what I feel like. That's what it sounds like to me, at least.
Now, as we approach the pit window opening here in the Portland studio, we are having some technical difficulties. I'm going to have to find a charger for my laptop, and I will be right back.
Oh no, bad things could happen.
Pit window is opening.
Pit window is open. We got a yellow flag. Had one for a minute or two, so I wonder who's caused the yellow flag. And you know, this very well could be that yellow flag where a car is stopped in the pit lane, but the game registers it on track for whatever reason. Shout out to Kunos. You need to fix that. Looks like Antonio Martell and Wesley Stokes are going to go ahead and take this opportunity to get in the pits.
Early
Well,
pits, and there is a bit of a penalty now, of course, for pitting early or late as the tires are required. So, in theory, the best strategy is to pit right at the halfway point of the race.
yep. And it looks
And
like
if we're
Spencer. Go ahead.
looking right here, Dan French in third place, is that right?
Yeah, that is right. So,
Perhaps a mistake there, a couple seconds back, so not a huge one, but Nichols able to be close enough to take advantage. What a position to be in.
you know, Pollock has been right on Nichols' tail the entire time. So two newcomers to ESR could have a chance at a podium here.
Now here we approach that pit entry. What will everybody
Oh
do?
my gosh.
Wow. Dan French taking the risk and running through the grass in order to not lose too much time while following closely on that pit entry. So the early takers, we've got French, Reeder, and Taft in the pits.
Oh, this is awkward.
This is Martel coming out. About a pit stop cycle behind, I would guess. So technically lap traffic here.
Well, yes and no. Yes and no.
They are fighting for position. That's
They're
right.
they're he's fighting for time here, so I think that's actually a good move.
Yeah, able to hold up the competitors just a little bit.
Yeah.
And with the short track here, of course, that 30-second pit stop plus the time it takes to go into the pits almost adds up to about an entire lap here at Zolder, about a minute and a half. I would imagine the total pit delta is closer to a minute. So once once Martel is able to cycle through, hopefully they will be ahead of the cars around them.
It looks like French is out and Reeder should be coming out. Who's our next group to take the pit stop?
I was able to speak with Reeder earlier this morning. He's told me that the team has been working really hard on their pit stop, in lap and out lap. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Reeder maybe gain a position or two, maybe get back onto that podium spot after the pit stop cycle through.
Yeah, I don't know about this one. This is such a challenging entry, and then if you get caught up not paying attention to your tire pressures because they're gonna be a little bit colder when you come out, it's pretty easy to have a uh-oh.
Yeah, right, you are. Even with the tire blankets here in the GT3 series, as opposed to maybe the GT4 class series, which has no tire blankets, those tires are not up to pressure yet at all. They could be definitely having different characteristics than what you're used to after the even just the lap before on your in lap.
Now it looked like Andreasen got passed by Turcotte and Oscar Tan.
And as the pit stop cycle through, we see Reeder just 4 or 5 seconds behind Dan French, so hanging in there in position for a podium if there are any mistakes to be happening ahead. Still in the lead is Simons and Nichols. Polyak very close behind, also positioned for a podium perhaps. Be interesting to see if anybody dives into the pits here. Nichols from P2
And Max Simmons, both
and
in.
Max. We will have to see where they come out. We're looking for Dan French
You're
on the
halfway
screen, who
through.
is
Keep pushing.
technically fighting for P1 here, already having taken their first pit stop. First and only pit stop, that is.
Now it looks like Dan.
And we see there Andreessen having to pay the price for pitting from behind 2 cars in front. Turcotte and the Ferrari really playing the cards well, having track position, able to force that slower pit stop for both cars behind, perhaps, as we have about half of the pit window has passed, only 4 minutes left. Pit lane is busy. Buns is in the pit now. Only 4 or 5 drivers having yet to take their pit stop with 4 minutes left to do so. Now is probably the time.
Now Sean Kinney all the way to last, and he still has to. He's taking his pit now, but all the way down to last. He must have had a huge moment. He's 5 laps down.
Wow, unfortunate day for Kenny and the team there at Audi.
Is it though? Is it an unfortunate day?
Well, nobody likes to show up for a race day, having traveled all the way to Belgium and, just have a rough day. That's just not fun for anyone on the team.
He's from Florida.
That's a long flight.
It is. Speaking of long flights, how about that fourth turn at Zolder?
I believe you are up. Turn
Oh my
4. The
goodness.
official pronunciation from ESR is
Lucian Bianchabach.
not bad, not bad.
Yeah,
Oscar
that.
Tan here in P3 having yet to pit, so we'll see where he filters out after that pit stop cycle.
Well, I think our last five here: Waj, Tobias, Theroff, Turcott, Tan, and Bingaman. They're all going to have to come here. This is going to be their last opportunity. I think we see all of them and stuff. Oh, it's Sean Kinney speeding in the pit lane.
Oh no, stop go 30.
Oh
Safety is of
no.
course the highest priority here in the racing series, so
Oh
we can't have
no.
people speeding in the pit lane, and that unfortunately is the penalty.
Oh my gosh. Well, he was doing so well.
Looking at the leading group on track here, they are approaching the pit lane after this hairpin. You know, Jeremy, they may have time for one more lap. It
I
may be
don't know that
difficult
they're
for
going to do it.
Turcotte here to force the issue, wanting that advantage and wanting to force that disadvantage, more importantly, on the car behind. Here we go, approaching the pit lane with a minute 45 left and about a minute 28 lap times. What will he do?
Oh, he's going in.
They're both
Yeah,
going in, playing it safe.
they're going in. Yeah, I knew when we got to the overpass and we hadn't hit the brakes yet.
Is anybody? No, we have all three. Maybe Tom Waj as we see them approach the pit lane on this lap. We'll see what they do. But it does look like the top three are in. We will see if Max Simons can hold on to the lead through the pit stop cycle. Dan French, 7 seconds in the rear to Max Simons after the pit stop cycle.
Max Simmons was at a smoking stop. He was able to jump Nichols, and it looks like Nichols was jumped by two people, French and Pollock. So, wonder what happened there.
Yeah, this is a difficult pit entry. A lot of time to be gained or lost. Could come down to that track position, having someone in front of you on the pit entry, or could just be that BMW mechanics were really on their game today and got those wheels off and on as quickly as possible.
John Kinney back in the pits to serve a stop and go 30. I'll be interested to see. He had a big moment, obviously, 6 laps down. We got a speed in the pit lane. I know that I would have picked my computer up and thrown it in the garbage by this point. So it'll be interesting to see if he sticks around. We really hope he does. It looks like we did lose one person though.
Indeed, perhaps suffering some technical difficulties or just maybe not having it be worth, even to the sponsors, to continue around the track. Maybe you're just feeling like you're a cone today.
Pit window is now
Pit
closed.
window is officially closed now. All 19 drivers having served their pit stops, and Max Simons with a commanding lead, even more so than the first half of the race here, with 7.5 seconds to the better of Dan French.
And that driver that is out is Sobolski. So I wonder if he just had enough.
Now, Reader here again finding themselves in no one's land, about a second and a half behind Nichols. Maybe that's a gap that Jeremy can actually catch up here.
Oh,
1.1, eating almost a half a second into that gap on the last lap.
and Nichols is falling off the back of Polyek and Dan. So I wonder if he has some. I wonder if he's got some aero damage or something going on with that car.
Perhaps an issue with the pit stop. You know, there's a lot to be coordinated with the team, making sure that the right tire goes on the right corner of the car, that it's at the exact right pressure, that it was in the warming blankets as long as possible. Not to speculate too much, but perhaps something went wrong there with that pit stop.
So Neil, I want you to look what's behind the McLaren of Zach Buns. That
Looks
is a
like we've got a
that's a
Bingaman
frickin'
behind the buns.
that's a frickin' Jaguar he's in. Good sir. Oh, and Reader got past Nichols. It does look like Nichols has some front end damage. So
Oh, yeah, we see the floppy bonnet there. That is never a good sign, folks.
but but Bingaman is in the frickin' Jaguar. Shout out to Lyndon Bingaman.
Shout out indeed, providing the musical soundtrack for the rest of the field in the Jaguar. And good call on Nichols here. Just appears to be really struggling with the front end grip with all of that damage, both the splitter, perhaps some mechanical damage as well.
I wonder if he can hang on. Let's see,
Wow. Look
Tobias.
at those times. Best lap from Nichols, 28.7. Last lap, 31 plus, almost 3 seconds off the pace. That is a tough second half of the race to be having here for Nichols.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough, but he's got lots of room. Tobias 12 seconds behind him, so 22 minutes.
We'll have to keep an eye on that. If it can make a half a second per minute, what is that? A second per lap.
Yeah,
Perhaps Tyrolf's got the position here, P5. Can here right behind Turcotte in the Ferrari. Turcotte doing really well with that Ferrari here. And this group almost looks like a carbon copy of how it was before the pit stops. Is that right?
it is. It is a carbon copy. I don't think anybody's jumped each other. I think everybody's just kind of where they were. Castano. This is a man that we usually see top 5, top 3.
I think that really speaks to the strength of the field here. Someone as quick as Castano struggling to keep themselves in the top 10 here with lots of pressure behind.
But that's good for the league. That's great to see. Means lots of competition.
You'll love to see it. You'll love to see it. Unless you're Castano.
Yeah, Mr. Castano. The man, the myth, the legend, Dominic Turcotte, looking back at Oscar Tan.
Trying to make the Tifosi proud today here in Belgium.
Are we on a new turn? Is it time for a turn?
I think it might be. We're on turn 5. Kleine chicane.
Okay.
Turn 5. That's Zolder. Does it make you happy?
It does. It makes me happy.
And speaking of happy, I prepared 2 fun facts, one happy and one sad for Belgium here. Which one would you like to hear first?
Let's go with the sad. I'm always cool with sad stuff that happens in Belgium.
The sad news about this track is this is the fateful circuit where Gilles Villeneuve was killed in a wreck during the qualifying session for the 1982 Formula One Grand Prix.
Ah,
And since then, safety concerns have become more and more important. And for the most part, since then, the Belgian Grand Prix has been held in Spa, which of course is now quite popular race that most people would recognize, Spa-Francorchamps.
good old Spa. Why is Theroff rocking the Aston? Solid choice for a car.
Really favorable balance of performance, I would say, these days for the Aston. Front engine, so it's a bit easier to drive and more stable than the mid-engine cars. And I think fairly strong at both twisty circuits and circuits that require good straight line speed. Perhaps not the best at any one circuit, but competitive at all circuits.
It's affectionately known as the car that has no character.
It's also the similar to the BMW in that way. I've heard many drivers describe the BMW as how you say dead.
Yeah, dead, no character, no. You
But
just
that also makes it easy to drive. I mean, you're not wondering if it's going to kill you every time you go through Eau Rouge and Verdillion at Spa.
that is true. Now checking back in with the front, Polyak is right on top of Dan French, and then Reeder. He's having some consistency issues this afternoon. 8 seconds behind Polyak.
Yeah,
Qualifies third, prospect of fifth, into fourth. I don't think this is the day he was looking for.
yeah, perhaps not, but third to fourth is not the worst day you could ask for as a racing driver, and at least gapping to Nichols behind, who is now 5 seconds and more gap up to Reeder at this point. Polyak, though, right on French, as you mentioned. Would love to see how that battle is going to shape up over the next 18 minutes. And this group just cannot believe how close they've been since lap 1.
It has been they're going to be exhausted after this.
Absolutely. You get out of the car after a race like this and you are drenched in sweat, believe you me. Surprising we're not seeing more moves, and as I say that, tan show in the nose, but it really is a difficult track to pass on. You almost have to rely on a mistake from the driver ahead, as the braking zones really aren't long enough to develop that overlap before the turn-in point. Also nice to see a few names that are crossovers from the Monday series. I already mentioned Lyndon Bingaman. I recognize Taft, Costantini, Tan, Turcotte, Stokes, Martell, Reeder. It's just really awesome to see how many drivers race multiple nights a week here at ESR.
But unfortunately, I think this is the only series that I'm going to be able to compete in for a little while. Is this Sunday? I may be able to transition to the Monday at some point, but just life in general, man.
Yep, and of course you got to prep the car every week, make sure you got your setups and your tire pressures right, and that all takes time.
Yeah, every bit of it.
Ready for the next pronunciation, I believe. Turn 6 is what we're on?
Sacrament shelling.
Oh, I've got a different one on my map here.
Oh goodness, what is it? What is it on your map?
But
So wait,
turn 6.
okay, so actually, depending on what map you look at, it's either Sacrament Shelley or Booty.
Oh, booty, sorry. Not Bud. Tan all over the back of Turcotte here. Will we see a move? Turcotte leaning defensive but not committing. Tan shows the nose, backs out safely. Turcotte still leaves the space, compromising both of them and allowing Andreessen to show the nose. And side by side here, wow, with a blue flag driver, although this is Polyak catching up to French still.
That looks like Tom Waj right there. So
Our 14 Tom Walsh is correct. Struggling on the day, it looks like. Tan trying to work his way back up to Turcotte here.
it looked kind of awkward too. Polyak was right on the back of Dan French when he caught that. Oh yeah, look at the time loss. Over a
That is
second behind.
unfortunate for Polyak there. That is going to be a real tragedy to have to make back up.
He is not going to be happy about that.
Shout out to Costantini in the Lexus, not the most well-supported factory team or car here in this series, but still making it work in P13. Checking in with the leaders, French able to keep the gap at about 7.5 seconds. Simon's maybe just managing that, not pushing any harder than he needs to here to get the W.
Yeah, there's really no reason for him to push hard here. It just looks like he's the pit stops were able to propel him just far enough to get that 7-second lead. Now, what I'm interested in is, we haven't had a GT3 race on Sundays in quite a while. I know, especially for me, it was very difficult. What is the right fuel mileage? It's almost double of what the GT4s is, and then on top of that, the GT4s, we were only doing 40-minute races. So
Indeed, and that can really affect the handling of the car, even carrying half of what you need for a 60-minute race here in the GT3 cars. They are very thirsty machines.
So depending on what calculator these folks used, we could see some fuel. You wouldn't think with a 30-minute just straight up pit strat, but never know.
You never know, it can be a challenge, and with things changing on the fly throughout the race, perhaps the engineers back in the garage missed a decimal?
They
Forgot to
forgot to
convert
carry a 1.
between gallons and liters?
They forgot to carry a 1. It's just that simple.
It is an unfortunate reality of the racing industry. And this group here fighting for P9 is unbelievably close and has been for just the longest time. P10, sorry.
So are we up for
Showing the
turn
nose
7?
is
Oh, he
Andreessen.
was.
Turn 7, I am very, very confident about. Said no one ever. Turlamenbocht.
I mean, you set this up on purpose, didn't you? Do you see the next one?
Sometimes that's the way the cookie crumbles, Jeremy. I mean,
No,
it's just completely random. I'm not sure exactly how we got to this point.
yeah.
So we're looking at the third and final chicane of the lap. The Audi of, is that the Lexus perhaps of Costantini starting to look into this group up here.
That is.
Turcotte's still leading him. Or maybe lap traffic. Costantini again is in the Lexus. Maybe we're looking at Thomas Waj there, trying to hang on and catch some slipstream from the cars one lap ahead.
Well, it does. Or is that Sean Kinney? It could be either one. It's oh yeah. Connor is way back there. So I'm wondering if that's Sean Kinney playing around back there. It very well is indeed Sean Kinney.
You really have to admire the patience of Tannen, especially Andreessen, who has had multiple opportunities to perhaps show a dive more than just a nose, as Tan has been looking at making an overtake on Turcotte ahead.
Maybe they're scared to be in front of Turcotte.
Could be.
I know Zach Martin is.
Be more of a biding of the time as well, hoping that these two maybe have an unfortunate contact and Andreessen could be the beneficiary of 2 free positions.
Oh, so Tobias is caught up with Nichols.
Nichols still moving backwards, struggling with the damaged car, and Tierloff moving right past. Not an issue at all.
It looked like he just kind of gave him the spot there.
Yep, Nichols in survival mode with Martel 10 seconds back, hoping that 10 minutes is not enough to lose one more spot. He can actually hang on to P6 here instead of having to settle for P7.
Up at the front, Polek, it does not look like he is able to make that time up that he lost.
Isn't that a tough catch that one mistake puts you 1.3 seconds back and you're just never able to make it up after 20 minutes of trying? That's just how racing goes sometimes. These drivers so evenly matched. Nichols appears to be hanging on to the back of Tierolf. Maybe the slipstream is going to be just the benefit that Nichols needed to not keep moving backwards through this field.
Very well could be. This has been the Oscar Tan, Dominic Turcotte, and Henrik Andreasen show this afternoon.
They have been quite familiar with each other for the entirety of this race, going on just 8.5 minutes left, and I can't remember the last time they weren't bumper to bumper. The group doing about 30.2 lap times, maybe a second off of their qualifying pace, but we are near the end of the stint here. Both mentally and physically, these drivers are just exhausted at this point.
Well, and depending on how hard they've been pushing the car, They're probably running into some graining.
And a lack of front grip is not what you want at a track like this, where you really need the car to be able to point through these chicanes and move in the way that you want it to.
Eight minutes to go. Are we we going to the hairpin? Is that what we're doing here?
Chicane number 2. Oh, in terms of the...
Track
Yeah, here we go,
names?
Jeremy. This is where
Oof.
you're all your training.
Ooh, we're approaching it now. It is called Boulder Gehasperdust. I Boulder Gehaspeldeutcht.
Boulderberg Harspeldbacht is what
Yeah.
I'm coming with.
Hey, look, whatever.
I would say if you add our scores together, we're maybe a 9 out of 10, so that's
Yeah.
not bad. Crossing the start-finish line once again, just 7 minutes left. The leaders perhaps about 30 to 35 seconds ahead of this group here, which is fighting for P10.
Oh, Oscar Tan gonna run super wide there. Car just not turning in. That's gonna open the door for Andreas, and Oscar Tan is gonna go defensive.
Andreas
Oh,
able to walk right around the outside, Tan having to file in behind and perhaps hope they can both catch back up to Turcotte, who's got about a 1 second gap now.
Sean Kenny sticking his nose into here.
Definitely has the pace, just an unfortunate day in terms of the stop-go penalty in the pits.
Oscar Tan, that Audi is struggling for front end grip. You can just see it. He is.
And maybe this is where Andreessen's strategy is really paying off, having kept things a bit calm and more collected behind these two cars. Maybe has better tires working into
Yeah,
this final 5 minutes here. It can actually push instead of just survive.
you saw it right there. Oscar just totally missed the apex into that first part of the chicane.
Absolutely. And the gap here just under a second at 9/10. Turcotte ahead. At the end of this lap, we'll see what Andreessen is able to accomplish.
It looks like Nichols on Mr. Waj.
Another blue flag situation here. Waj wanting to just hold their
Oh,
racing line as
Waj
best as
is.
possible.
Oh, a little touchy.
Easier said than done in these high-strung GT3 cars when you're running over curbs like that. This is not an easy situation as a blue flag driver.
A little bit more damage for Nichols.
Lachlan Nichols looking like the Loch Ness monster out there.
I know,
That
right?
hood about to open up and swallow whichever blue flag driver won't get out of their way next. The leaders approaching sector 3 now, meaning when they get to the start finish line, we'll have probably 3 or maybe 4 laps left. This race comes to a close. Simon's still maintaining that 7.5 second gap. Polyak falling about a second further behind here in third place as the podium starts to solidify coming into the final few laps of this race.
And it looks like things have kind of settled down here.
Not seeing a lot of gaps under a second, other than Andreessen, of course, fighting Turcotte still. Andreessen only 3/10 behind Turcotte, not even done with the current lap, so gaining at an alarming clip here. Turcotte will definitely be looking in their mirrors.
Come on, director. Show us that battle.
Here we are, Turcotte looking back at Andreessen, who is hungry and patient for that position.
Oh,
diving under the brakes, closing up the gap as much as safely as possible.
Now, Andreessen, he may have. So we've got a blue flag car here. This is going to play into this battle.
And Andreessen has been nothing if not patient throughout these first 57 minutes of this race, so we will
Oh,
see the lap driver pulling off to the side of the track there, perhaps having an incident, not becoming an issue. Andreessen's still right on the bumper of Turcotte.
I think that was Stevens, and I think he just said, you know what? Let me go ahead and get out of all of your ways.
You can't blame him at the end of such a long race. You'd hate to be a negative impact on a fight like this.
Now, interestingly enough, that Ferrari doesn't seem to be eating its tires up. Dominic looks very, very consistent
A
with his
missed apex
lines.
there, though, at turn 2. Is that just a mistake, or is it a theme? We'll see if Turcotte can reel it back in here. Almost looks like they're running wide
Oh,
there, but the BMW of Andreessen is really pushing as hard as they can, trying to make a move here right in the last couple of laps.
they both missed the sausage curbs. First
And
part.
falling a little bit back, probably struggling with tires, just as we imagined, but not far enough to capitalize on a mistake or if there's contact ahead.
Oh, but Henrik, he has got the speed through that second chicane. It looks like he can just enter with a boatload more speed.
I
Oh,
think you're
Antonio
right.
Martel catches up with Nichols. Is this the last lap?
Just as we thought, Jeremy, with 10 seconds of gap, we thought that the Loch Ness Monster might be safe, and clearly they are not. Martel with over, I think, maybe 2 laps to go now,
Oh my
trying to
goodness.
mount a move on a driver that is struggling heavily with damage and perhaps tire wear as well. Martel clearly with the overspeed, I think going to drive around the outside here. On
Oh,
the
they're going to run each other. Oh,
inside to turn 4, there it is, and Lachlan Nichols really struggling with the car at this point.
it looked like Nichols was just not having any of it though.
Yeah, really
Um,
not having the car underneath him to have to fight against someone like Martel,
Final
who
lap.
is a formidable opponent for sure.
Shout out to Martel, top 6 here, top 10 here.
Great finish.
That's gonna be a great finish for him if he can
After a
hang on.
P15 qualifying position, so what a performance from Martel with a +9 position gain for the day if they can finish it out. Jack Polyak trying to hang on to a podium here with, I believe, a lapped car behind, so a good day for Jack all around.
And it just goes to show you, in the case of Antonio, that sometimes all you have to do is survive. That's all you have to do.
That's right, no mistakes in the pits, no penalties, and perhaps you'll be moving up through the field.
And this should be our final lap here.
That's right, the leaders started the final lap just about 30 seconds ago. Max Simons still with an 8-second lead over Dan French. Jack Polyak in third, 3 seconds behind Dan French.
We
And
need to go
looking
back to
at
this
Turcotte and
Turcotte battle.
Andreessen, as we both want to see it,
Oh my goodness. Nichols is caught back up to Antonio.
fighting
What is
back.
going on here? Oh,
Andreessen
whoa,
lost a little
whoa.
bit of time. Andreessen 6/10 behind Turcotte. Maybe not going to be able to put together a move by the end of the race here.
Look
Nichols,
at
on the other
this.
hand, side
Leader
by
has
side
finished
through the
race.
second chicane.
And we catch over to Wesley Stokes, who's right behind these two.
And Castagno with a heartbreaking drive-through penalty
Oh
for track limits
no.
on the last lap.
Oh no.
A quiet race turned hectic for Castagno, who had a gap
That's
ahead and a gap behind for almost 60 minutes and throws it away with the drive-through. That is just an unfortunate mental mistake there for Castagno.
that's gonna hurt. Wesley Stokes being a little held up by Waj in this blue flag car. Looks like he'll clear him up here though. Are
That's
we are
right.
we at turn 9? We got to go to turn 9 and turn 10.
Oh, we've got about 2 turns to finish this. Turn 9, Jochen Rindbacht. And would
And
you like to finish it out with turn 10, Jeremy?
Jackie Ickbocht.
And there you have it, folks. The end of the race and the end of our horrible pronunciations of Belgian words and turns at this racetrack. Max Simons with a commanding win. Jeremy, you asked earlier in this race, can anybody challenge Max Simons with the GT3 championship? And if this performance is anything to say about that, I would say no so far.
Yeah, it certainly looks that way. Dan French had a great race. Jack Pollock, Jeremy Reeder, Tobias Thuroff, Antonio Martel, Nichols, Stokes, Castagno, and Turcotte, your top 10. Castagno, he is actually going to move down quite a bit to 13th, it looks like. So Andreasen would be your top 10. Man, that's
Solid
heartbreaking.
finish to a great fight with Andreessen, Turcotte, and Tan. Tan being the least fortunate of the three there, fighting for that ninth position, but ending up in P11 instead.
Yeah. So, well, that was an excellent season opener. I'm excited for this season.
Indeed, an exciting race with lots of skilled drivers and some drama to boot.
All right. Well, if you like that, if you like this video, you should check us out. Hit subscribe, like down below, hit the bell so whenever we upload a video, we get that notification. ESR-race.org. We do it all. We do ACC, we do R3E, we do R Factor, we do AC. If you name it, we do it. And I'm getting a phone call from Voight Collar. Don't know who they are, but whatever. So, Mr. Neal, do you have anything?
No, just happy to be here. Thanks for having me, and I'm looking forward to round two and the rest of the season.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be great. Well, I have been your host, Jeremy Reeder, my main man. Thank you for coming. We will see all of you in Bathurst, and that race will be on the. What is 2 weeks from now, Neil?
2 weeks from now is the 30th of January.
The
It'll be
30,
on the 20, yes,
the
the race will be on the
29th.
29th.
It'll be on the 29th. So we look forward to seeing all of you guys on the 29th for our Bathurst. Show up. It should be hot and sticky. And I
Hot
have
and
been your
sticky.
host.
It's our specialty, ESR racing.
That's right, hot and sticky. All right, well, if you don't have anything else, Neil, we're going to sign off by saying bye.
Bye.